Hello, everyone. It's Tuesday, and today's special talk with our friend Roberto Watanabe from FEASP. As usual, once a month, he is helping us here with a series of the books from Allan Kardec. And this year, it is Heaven and Hell. So, good evening, Roberto. Good to have you here, my friend.
Thank you, Stefan. I'm glad to be here with you and with all our colleagues again.
Yeah, and also we are broadcasting through the FASP YouTube channel. So good to be there. So I want to say good evening to our friends in the FASP. It's a pleasure to be here with you and all these opportunity FASP has given to us. It's important. So today's topic it is heaven and happy spirits. Heaven and Happy Spirits. This is part of the book, as we said, Heaven and Hell, um, written by Allan Kardec. Also, we do have these books in many languages: English, Portuguese, French, of course. But so it's easy to find this book uh, in your city, in your federation.
Yeah.
Okay, Roberto, I can see people are still joining us, so I will do the initial prayer.
Yes. Okay. Me, you mean? Or
No, I
you?
will do it. You,
Ah,
you
okay.
can you can do the final prayer for us.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's let's invite everyone to raise up your thoughts towards your mentors, mentors of the group, mentors of the ESP. Ask them to enlighten ourselves, especially our speaker today, giving him the knowledge, the support in order to help us spread the Spiritism in English to all other countries who understand and who speak in English. Please look after the peace in our world. So be it. Amen. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, wow, we have a considerable number of people. Okay, Paty Oliveira, good evening, my dear. Thank you for being here. Let me add. So, can you see?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So, it is with you, my friend. If you need me, I'm here in the background.
Okay. Thank you, Stefan. Hello, everybody. Thank to be here. Glad to be here again with you all. And today we are going to see another chapter of the book Heaven and Hell. And today we are going to see the chapter 3, which talks about heaven. And then also, as I explained before, we will see also this is on the first part of the book, and on the second part of the book there are lots of communications from the spirits, and in many situations. And today, as we will be talking about the heaven, then we'll see some examples of communications of happy spirits, which is there on the second part of the book. Okay, so let's start by talking about heaven. I split here heaven in two parts, and also the communications in two parts. Uh, well, let's start by talking about the ancient beliefs about heaven. So the ancient people, they believed in the existence of many superimposed skies. So you had lots of skies, one above of the other, right? So uh, those skies, as they thought, were composed of both solid and transparent matter, forming concentric spheres. And Earth was in the center, because, as we know, until the 15th century, uh, the humankind believed that Earth was at the center of the universe, and then start from the center, you had those concentric spheres, right? And we can imagine it such a solid and transparent matter as a kind of a sphere of glass, right? Transparent and solid. And well, according to the ancient, as such spheres spun around Earth, such spheres swept along the heavenly bodies contained in their orbits. So we can imagine that in such a sphere of glass, we had some, let's say, some stars, some planets stick on the surface of such a sphere, right? So when such a sphere moved, the stars and the planets or the satellites moved together, right? So that's the idea. And then that was the ancient belief about heaven, right? So, and according to them, there were seven layers, let's say, of heaven, right? So we had the first layer, second until the seventh layer, and then the seventh layer would be the best one, right? So that's why the expression "to be in the seventh heaven" express a perfect bliss, perfect happiness. So that was the belief at that time. Right? So this is before Christianity. Then we have the Christianity, right? 2,000 years ago. And then we start to have another, a little bit different belief, which is the Christian theology. So Christian theology recognizes only three heavens or three layers, right, of those spheres. The first one is this that we can see, right, the region of the air and clouds. So that was the first sphere, solid and transparent, right, like a glass of a window, for example, right? So, and beyond the first region, which is this one that we can see, there was the second one in the space, in which the heavenly bodies orbit, right? So that idea that I mentioned, right? Suppose that such a sphere of glass with some stars and planets stick on the surface of that sphere. Then, as the sphere moved, this all those bodies moved together, right? And but beyond the second layer, let's say, of this heaven, uh, we had the third one, and that was the dwelling place of the Most High. The Christian theologists used to say, right? So the habitation of the elect, or on their language, where the angels should live and together with God, right? So that was the belief according to the Christian theology. Then after that, as I said, on the 15th century, we have the works of Copernicus, and then we um, realized that Earth was not in the center of the universe. Yes? But then we are on the field of science, which is the first thing, the next thing we are going to see here. So, what is the view of science? Science has shown that those theories from the ancient and also from the Christian theologists was not plausible, right? Because Earth was no longer the center of the universe, but one of the smallest heavenly bodies traveling through the space, through the infinite space. The sun itself, which is Earth, for example, is spinning around the sun, and the sun, together with the other planets, and the sun itself is no more the center of one planetary vortex, right? But there were many planets spinning around the sun, and well, science also discovered that there are lots of other sun, other star, because the sun is a star, and it is a small star actually, right? So then those stars that we see in the sky are another, let's say, sun, which they have also their innumerable planets, right, spinning around them. So the universe took another dimension according to science. And then we ask, right, according to our spiritism, in light of such considerations, it is reasonable to ask why God would make the earth the only seat of life. Because until then, people used to think that life would exist only on earth. To be true, we know that even science today has not yet discovered, right, life in other planets, although it's the scientists are looking for. And but according to Spiritism, we know that everything proclaims. Spiritism says that life exists everywhere, right? So, and that humankind is as infinite as the universe itself, meaning that. We have life on Earth, and we have life in other planets and other solar system spread around the universe. So that this is a much wider view, right, of the universe, which was brought by science. And then after well, what happened is that after science, heaven, which was um, that a higher layer, let's say, of those skies, those heaven layers, um, heaven was displaced, well, because there today we don't have anymore those spheres, right? Spheres of heaven. So heaven has been displaced, and the unlimited stellar region can no longer serve it. And so the question we have now is, where is heaven then, right? So Spiritism has come to answer this question. And Spiritism demonstrates the true destinies of humankind. And so how we can understand this issue of heaven today? We must start by thinking about ourselves, right? So we must think that the human beings, we are composed of a body and a spirit. And the spirit, which is the thinking being, is the principal reasoning and intelligence being. The body that we have, or we as incarnate, right? The body is the material envelope of the spirit that temporarily clothes the spirit so that we can carry out the work we need for our evolution. And so after that, we uh, our body is destroyed by the spirit. We as a spirit survive, and we return to the spirit world from where we came, right, before being born here on earth. And so, according to this view of Spiritism, we have, therefore, we have two worlds. We have the corporeal world, which is this where we as incarnate are, and the spiritual world, where we have those that had passed away before us, right? And well, we also, in the future, when we pass away, we also are going to the spiritual world. And so that is those two worlds. And the corporeal world, we know that is limited, right, to the surface of earth, and are composed of us, incarnate spirits. The spiritual world does not have any limited any limitation, right? So the spiritual world extends everywhere, Spiritism say, right? So it says, and the spiritual world surrounds us and fills space without any designated limit. So that is the view of Spiritism. Um, and then spirits are in different situations, right? So the spirit either on earth incarnate or on the spiritual world, there are in many different situations. And we have happy spirits, we have unhappy spirits. And then, according to the study of spiritism, we 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 know that happiness is the result of the spirit's progress, right? So that's why we came, for example, on Earth. We may have two spirits, one on the side of the other, and one may not be as happy as the other because they are not in the same degree of advancement, spiritual advancement. And they are together, right? We are together here. Well, we can just we must just look, at the world, at our environment we live, and see that there are people. Some people are happy, other people are suffering, right? And then this situation, we are all together in the same place. So um, spiritualism here is indicating that heaven or hell or something like that are not specific places, right? Because a person can be at the same place or another place, and one may be in a happy situation, other in an unhappy situation, and that's what being said here. And so that happens because on the earth, that happens whether on earth or on the spiritual world. So there on the spiritual world also we may have two spirits, two discarnate spirits together, one in a happy situation, another in an unhappy situation. So what we can summarize of all these is that actually the concept of happiness, or the situation of being happy or unhappy, is much more a matter of our conscience, right? Of our consciousness, and is not linked um, to the place where we are, but on our consciousness, right? So that's what's being explained here. For example, I may be in an environment where everybody are are joyful, well, are happy, and I may be very sad there because I have some problems that I'm going through, and that make me very sad. And for example, I may just have lost a friend, for example, right? So, or let's say a parent, right? So that's the situation. The opposite also may be true, right? I can be surrounded by people uh, involved in sadness and, well, happiness I wouldn't say, but I can be there with them, and being serene, for example, being calm, and not as sad as they are. So it is a state of a consciousness. That's what being said here. And then let's see some examples of happy spirits in the spiritual world, right? So because we know from the spiritism, according to the law of cause and effect, that's everything, well, the way we live here on earth will have direct consequence on the situation we will have on the spiritual world after we die, right? So if we do good things here, then we can ensure a happy situation on the spiritual world before, but after we go there, right? So, and the opposite is true. If we realize and we accomplish lots of wrongs here, and we are ensuring that our situation in the spirit world after we die will not will not be good, right? So, but today we are going to see those who at least tried to do good while they were here on earth, and how is their situation there on the spiritual world, right? So let's see this first example here from this man, Dr. Demir. He is a French physician, right? So he was aware. He's from the middle of the 19th century. Right? He was a well-regarded homeopathic physician. He used to attend his poor clients' prescriptions, medicine, even physical help, and also without any charge, right? So he was a very good man. And at some time in his life, he embraced the Spiritist doctrine, in which he found the answers to many problems, right? Many questions about the meaning of our life. And he lived in another. He didn't live in Paris. He lived in another Paris. Right? He lived in another city, but they he had a correspondence through letters, because we are on the middle of the 19th century, right? And between he and Allan Kardec, which is the founder, let's say, right, of Spiritism. And he passed away on January 25th, 1865 in Albi, you know, the city that he lived. And then let's see his situation after his death. So uh, he was evoked, right, 5 days after his death. Right? So he's passing away. And what did he say, right? And on his communication through a medium, right? So usually the spirit at that time used to communicate through a medium who would write, right, the message from the spirit. And then he explained here the situation on this passage from the incarnate situation to the discarnate situation. And then he says that death plunged his soul into lethargy, but he shook off the dismal torpor, right, a kind of a torpor, and woke up and making the cross of this corporeal world to the spiritual world in a single bound, he says, right? So, and then how happy he was, right? He was no longer sick or old, because you can imagine that he passed away after sickness, right? And in his case, it was a long period of sickness, and he passed away when he was old. And then in the spiritual world, he was no longer sick or old, and he felt light. He says he felt light like a bird that rapidly flies across the horizon of our cloudy sky. So just to see the sensation of freedom that he should feel, right, while he was there. And then he says, I marvel, bless, and bow before the grandeur and wisdom of our Creator, and before the wonders that surround me on the spiritual world. So you can see, we can see here the situation, the consequence, or the effect of the acts that he did while he was incarnated here. Right? That's why he's an example of a happy spirit. And then after his death, he's as a physician, well, because if a person is a physician, after he's dying, the knowledge that he has will go with him, right? So, and then he starts to help Allan Kardec, right, on his health. So he gives some recommendations to Allan Kardec. And Kardec at that time, he was going through a sickness situation also. Right? So you see here some recommendations from him to Kardec, a communication, right, through the medium. Then he said, "Right, my good friend, to Kardec, trust us and take heart. Although this crisis, Kardec was going through a crisis, a health crisis, and this crisis is tiring and painful, but it will not last long, right? So I, Dr. Demir, am your brother and friend, and I feel happy at being a spirit in order to be at your side, taking care of you in your illness." And then comes the recommendation, right? He says, "It is very hot here, on the room where Kardec used to study, to work, right, to write." And then he said, uh, of course, there was winter, right? So he says, "The coal fire makes you tired. Don't burn any more coal while you are ill, because it increases your difficulty in breathing, because the gases, the coal releases are harmful to your health, right?" So this interesting situation, because this is a spirit giving a recommendation to an incarnate person, right, which is Allan Kardec. So that is to us to see how good this person was, right? So is, no? Because the spirit is immortal. He's alive until now, right? So that is the example, the first example that I would like to bring here. And then we have another example of this man, Samuel Philippe, right? So he also was a righteous man in every sense of the word. No one could remember having seen him commit an evil act or having intentionally wronged anyone in any way. And for him, work, fatigue, sacrifice, nothing kept him from being useful. He served naturally without being ostentatious. And he was a very intelligent person, endowed with much energy, but his life was very obscure and full of severe trials. So that's the situation here, right? A man which is gifted with intelligence, energy, but life was very hard to him, right? So we can also understand that according to the law of cause effect, right? It means that he went through that situation, that life, because of in a former life he was not that good as he was then, right? So he also he explained that, after understanding Spiritism, the Samuel Philippe, he acquired an ardent faith in the future life and great resignation before the trials and the ills that he was going through. And after a very painful disease, he died in December 1862 at the age of 50. Then now comes the communication from him as a spirit, right? So he was evoked many times after his death, and let's say some part of his communication. He says, "Well, if in my last life, that this previous life, here as this righteous man, if in my last life did have any merit in your eyes, you would not feel the same regarding the previous one, right? The life before that one that he had just finished." So uh, this is what I said, right? He is explained here that in the former life, before the last one, he was not that good, right, as if he was in the last. And that's why he explained, right? To erase the last traces of my previous wrongs, I had to suffer the final trials that uh, I went through, right? This last incarnation. And this is very important, right? I voluntarily accepted them. So that's something important that we learn spiritually, right? We may have a very difficult situation in our present life, suffering ills, lots of trials. But depending on how we accept that, we will, let's say, win, that's trials or not. If we become very resentful of that, and that's in that situation we will not would win the trials. And in his case, he said, right, I voluntarily accepted them. Uh, Accepted the trials does not mean that we are going just to remain passive, right? And well, going through all the suffering, the obstacle. No, we have the trials, and we will fight, right, to overcome our difficulties. So that is also something important, right? We must be active. We accept them in our mind, but we fight against those trials, right? Those situations. If we have a sickness, we are going to look for become healthy again, right? So not just to accept the sickness. And then he says, now I bless them, right? Although all those trials, every single of one of those trials, and his death was was like sleep, right? Like you sleeping at night, and then next morning you are waking up, huh? With your strength again, your physical strength again. Your mind is it's the resting mind also, right? So he says that this passage from the corporeal to the spiritual world was like sleep, without struggle or shock, right? And his awakening was very calm compared to his previous condition. He means um, the condition where while he was here on earth, right? Because he was going through many trials. And then at the spiritual world, he didn't have any of those trials again. That's what he's saying again. He's saying here, right? So he 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 says that the presence of individuals whom he used to love filled him with joy, and he was not surprised at seeing them. So what he's saying here is that, for example, when we die, at the moment we die, all those that went before us, all beloved ones, they come to receive us, right, on this new life, let's say, right? So, because they love us as we loved them, right? So, that's something that happened to him. So that's why we used to say that death is a departure from some place, but is the arriving at another place, right? So departure from earth, but arriving at the spiritual world, and all those friends that we have will be waiting for us there, and will be coming to helping us, right? To going through this moment of a passage, right? So, but if we did lots of wrongs, then those who went before us will also be waiting there, but with another intention, right? So that's why the law of cause effect is always functional, right, on our life. And one thing that surprised Samuel Philippe is that he could understand the other spirit there, and they also could understand him without saying anything, right? Because he just understood themselves through thought, right? So that's something interesting. We know that, right, by studying spiritism, that on the spiritual world, communication is done only by thought, right? And then he said, right, oh, if only people could comprehend the future life, what power, what courage it would give them amid this adversity here on earth. Right? So that is another example of a happy spirit, which went through lots of trials while we are incarnated here, and then the happiness that he find when he arrived at the spiritual world. So let's now see the second part of our heaven, right? Because in the first part, we ended up by saying that being happiness or happiness is related to heaven, right? And suffering is related to the topic we are going to see next month, which is hell, right? So this be happy or be unhappy is a matter of consciousness, right? How we are in our consciousness. But now in the second part, we are going to see that although on earth there is no specific place for heaven, we have some, we start by talking about the infinite worlds that we have on the universe. And those worlds are in different stages of development, right? So we can see that on the Gospel according to Spiritism, right? A book from Allan Kardec. And then we learn that there are many level of worlds. There are the primitive worlds on where the spirit have its first has its first incarnation. Then we have the world for trial and expiation, which is our earth, for example, is on the second level. Then we have the world, regenerative world, which is the next stage of Earth. We are going now through this transition, right, from this world of trial and expiation to this regenerative world where evil will not predominate anymore, right? So then before that you have the happy world and the celestial world. And if you can imagine how good are the spirits which live on a happy world where good predominates, and the celestial world, which is even more good, right, than the happy world. Then we can have an idea of that would be should be like heaven, right? So this is what we are going to see here. Don't well then. The view of spiritism, right? Again, so reincarnation then can occur on Earth or on other worlds. We know from spiritism that when we achieve the most of the evolution we can have on this Earth, then we go to a higher world, right? A higher, I mean, in the spiritual development sense, right? So, and then among the worlds, there are some that are more evolved, like I just said, right? So, where only spirits who have reached a degree of purity are admitted. So, you can imagine that on a happy world, the kind of spirits that can live here, there, right? So, of course, just good spirits, and that's like heaven, right? So that's why Spiritism says that life in this higher world is a reward in itself, because on them we are free of all the earthly ills and vicissitudes, suffering. There are no war, there are no fighting, there are no assassination, suicide, and so on and so forth, right? And those worlds are less material, almost fluidic, and so bodies, corporeal bodies in such a world are not subject to the illnesses and weaknesses as we have here on earth, right? Evil spirits are excluded from that world, and the inhabitants enjoy full peace because there are no fight there. And true fraternity reigns there because there is no selfishness, and compared to our earth, these worlds are true heavens. So this is something that we had here, right? Heaven at the end of heaven on our earth would be a state of consciousness when I did the most I could by doing good and to avoid evil, right? So, and but heaven also are these very evolved world. Living there is like being in heaven. So are the two situations. That's why I split it here in two parts. And that let's see our we have until on one slide more. So in this unlimited immensity, which is the universe, where is heaven, right? We ask. For heaven is everywhere, no borders enclose it. Advanced the world are the last stations to it. So we have these infinite worlds are spread through the universe in very different stage of development. And the happy and celestial worlds are the last station as we as a spirit we are going to live, right? And the virtues facilitate the journey to such a world, while vices, of course, hinder our access to such a world. Right? So that's simple like that. Let's finish now by seeing an example of another from the second part, right, of a heaven book, heaven and hell book, and which is example of a woman, widow, widow Foulon. So this woman lived in this location, right, Havre, which is a city on France, which is away from Paris. So Allan Kardec also, who lived in Paris, did not have any direct communication with her. And then there is here we see some aspects of her character, right? So if there was ever if there was ever anyone who did not allow herself to be dominated by selfishness, it was widow Foulon, right? So she was always ready to sacrifice her repose, health, and own interest um, for people to whom she could be useful. So she was a very good woman, right? So from her youth, since her youth onward, her life, you will see here the same situation like Samuel Philippe, right? Uh, from her from her youth onward, her life had been a series of harsh trials in the face of what her courage and resignation never faltered. Right? So exactly like Samuel Flick, he didn't he accepted his trial. Right? The widow Foulon um, faced her trials with courage and resignation. And when Mrs. Foulon was introduced to the Spiritist doctrine, it seemed to her a ray of light, right? Like on Samuel Flick, right? Or Dr. Demir, right? So open up a very bright view of life, right? So, and she passed away in Antibes, another city, on February the 3rd, 1865. So she was evoked, I say, when we, 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 we we invite well the spirit to communicate with ourselves through a medium. And she was evoked. She passed away on February the 3rd, and she was evoked 3 days later, right? And then she started by uh, directing herself not to Allan Kardec, right, the founder of the Spiritism, but to Allan Kardec's wife, right, which was Mrs. Amélie, right? And she says, "Dear friend," which is the, the wife of Kardec, "why are you so disturbed over my death? Huh? You should instead be joyful at seeing that I no longer have to drink the bitter cup of earthly sorrows, because remember, she went away through many trials and harsh trials, right? So now she was freed from all those trials. So we should be happy with her and not sad, right? Because she passed away. So that is a different mindset that we as a spirit have around the idea of death, right? When we understand all this. And she says to her, right? So you will see me again. Be sure of that. Right? I was the first to depart because my job on earth was over, but one day you also will come here, right, on the spiritual world. That was she's saying that then we'll meet again, right? I will leave you now in order to turn to my excellent friend. Now he are directing to his conversation to Allan Kardec, right, the founder of the Spiritism. So I will turn to my excellent friend, Mr. Kardec, and I want to thank you for the affectionate words you spoke to the friend who preceded you to the grave. The friend who preceded you to the grave is her. Huh? So she is thanking for the kind words from Kardec to her. And then she said, I shall leave now because I must return and visit my children, which was left behind, right? And then 2 days before the first communication, he he explained how was his passage from the corporeal to the spiritual world, and he says, "After my last breath, I passed through a sort of a syncope. I awoke little by little, and found that I was surrounded by friends." You see, just like Samuel Flick, right? Those beloved ones that had gone before her was there, receiving her in his new her new life, right? So they showed me that's what is interesting here. They showed me a point in the space that resembled a shining star, and said, "You are going there with us, for you no longer belong to the earth." So here is a interesting situation, right? We have a situation of a spirit who had reached the most she could on earth, and because of that, she is enabled to live in a higher world. So this is what is happening here. No? That idea of heaven as a very more evolved world. Right? So, and then she says it was a happy world where her friends and relatives were taking her right to, and on which your good friend, um, it means her, was going to finally find rest from the vicissitudes of earthly life. I left behind too many loved ones, his children, right? Because he had no husband anymore. She was a widow, right? So, but she says, although I was there on that happier world, which is very far from Earth, I will return in spirit, right? Because I have a mission to fulfill together with my children. Meaning that she's, she still have the mission, right, to direct her children to the good path, right, so that someday in the future they also could join her in that happy world. So this is a very interesting example, that we have on the heaven and hell. And so from all this, we can see basically that heaven or happiness is the consequence of what we do now, right? In this present life. So we build our happiness today, starting today. It's not something that we are going to to, to accomplish in the future. So that's I would say the main lesson we can apprehend from today's presentation. So today, so we had this overview of about heaven and happy spirit, and then the next presentation we will see the opposite situation. Right? We'll be studying the concept of a hell, and we talk about the suffering spirit. Right? So you can imagine which is the opposite of a situation we saw today. Right? But it's also necessary for us to understand, to learn, to comprehend these opposite situation, because from that we can learn what we should avoid, in order to not go in the same situation as we will see next month. So that's what I had for today. Thank you for being with me, and I return to Esteban. You are muted, Esteban.
Thank you, my friend. Good explanation. I like this letter from Amélie Boudet.
Uh,
You know, so it's so waking up because hey, we studied spiritism all this time, and now you're worried about me. Like, wow, don't you know we
uh,
still keep alive? You know, the only difference are not there
uh,
in a material way.
yeah.
So it's funny, and we
Yes.
caught ourselves in this situation as well. How many times we don't behave knowing
Mm.
life goes on. You know,
Yeah, yeah. We had lots of communication, the Spiritist magazine about this, Esteban. Lots of the Spiritists, well, communicating to his, husband to her wife, or
Yeah.
uh, a father to his son. Well, why are you so sad? I'm well now, and I'm happy. there is
Yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah.
there is
I'm
no.
okay. Please don't ask me to come back.
Your sadness is not is not even good for to me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because I'm worried about you.
yeah. Anyway, oh my gosh, but it's good. It's good to have all this,
Yeah,
and your your process of teaching, showing this to us is very clear and very straightforward. This is good as well. I'm pretty sure everyone here uh, um, have a good understanding of these chapters from the heaven and hell.
yeah, I hope so.
Okay, for the next month, do you have a date, my friend?
Yeah, 12 of
Well,
March, 12 of March. We'll be talking about the hell and suffering spirit.
okay, 12 March.
Mhm.
Okay, great. I'll put in our calendar here.
Okay,
Okay. We don't have any questions. Just
comment.
Paty Oliveira say thank you. Leila is speeding.
Ladies
Uh,
from FASP.
like the explanation.
Yeah, yeah,
Lou
she's a
VM, thank you, Lou, for being here.
ladies from FASP.
Oh, good, good, Leila. Nice
She's
to
a,
have you here, my dear.
yeah,
Okay. So, would you mind to do the final prayer?
sure. Okay,
Okay.
so thank you all by your patience once more. And let's finish our meeting today, thanking our spiritual benefactors for all the support and help they give us on this work we have on the spirit, on the, let's say, teaching and of the spiritist doctrine, in order to explain the wonders that we learn by studying such a discipline. And we also thank Jesus, which whose teachings are on the base of Spiritism. And finally, we also thank God for the gift of life, of such infinity of worlds that He spread throughout the universe, just for us as spirits, His creatures, to through our infinite incarnations, evolve in wisdom and love, and then going through uh, such a higher world, and approaching close to the Heavenly Father more and more. So thank you, Father, for all that. So be it.
Amen. Just for your information, we have a loads of patients, my friend.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have a lot of patients. We want to hear and more about from you.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay. So, once again, thank you, Kardec Radio. Thank you, FASP. Thank you,
Thank,
Roberto, for your time. And stay tuned. We will have in 20 minutes our virtual healing. Just go to Spiritism Ireland YouTube page. There is no link. Just go there. You'll see the live there. So it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, more or less. So enjoy the team. Also, this weekend, this upcoming Sunday, we will have our in person meeting in Dublin. So, for those who are based here in Ireland, and Roberto, if you want to come, we are open arms.
okay.
So come to see us and That's it. Thank you very much, my friends. Enjoy the rest of your day. Good evening, and I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you. Bye bye.
See you. Bye bye.